Hello and welcome to the Ren Den. I'm Ren and it's been a busy couple of weeks. So the Harrogate Knitting and Stitching show was a couple of weekends ago and I didn't make a video about the cool stuff I got there because one of the things that I bought there, they didn't have the version that I wanted, so they very kindly posted it to me after the fact, so I wanted to wait until that had come in. But by the time that arrived, relatively promptly, like, don't get me wrong, I had already been to Dragonmeet in Hammersmith and had a really good charity shop trawl in Hertford and picked up a couple of other bits along the way. So I thought rather than do a series of short, kind of choppy videos, I would just chuck them all in one video and you can skip to the bit that you're interested in, or you can watch the whole thing and enjoy my stuff. So you can use the timestamps in the description or the chapters along the bottom of the video to navigate if you only are interested in part of it, which is totally fair. And I'll put in as many kind of maker and shop names as I can find after the fact in the description as well, so check there if you see anything that you really like the style of. So we're going to be working chronologically as follows. Chapter 1, tune in crafting fans for the things I got at the Harrogate Knitting and Stitching show. If you are a fan of D&D, TTRPGs, general nerd stuff, head on over to chapter 2 for the cool stuff I got at Dragonmeet. And if you're a fan of building a strong aesthetic in your space and getting a good charity shop bargain, stay tuned for chapter 3. There will also be some bonus stuff at the end for some little bits and bobs, but we'll get to that in due course. So let's dive right in. So the knitting and stitching shows are huge. They do, I think, 3 a year, one in Alexandra Palace, one in Harrogate, and one in Bristol. They have art exhibitions, crafters, shops, everything from your little essentials to beautiful works of art to organisations in crafting spaces, indie shops and sellers. They've got it all, as long as it's kind of fibercraft based. And they also have like a full program of workshops that run throughout the event, which sadly I didn't have time to go to any of them, but they sounded great. So the first thing I picked up at the show almost immediately was this dungarees pattern by Tilly and the Buttons. It is really inclusive sizes. It goes 6 to 34. You can do 3 different leg lengths, 2 different tops. It is for confident beginners. And confidence is certainly not something I'm lacking in sewing. So I'm really excited to see how it goes. The next thing I picked up was these clips. I got 6 of them. I think it was 6 for £5 maybe. Looking at the convention map, I think they were from Crafty Products. So I'm sorry if I've got that wrong. I just thought it would be a really versatile and cost-effective tool for various crafting adventures. The next stall I got some stuff from was Siesta Frames, just some kind of necessary bits. I got a new leather thimble. I got some beeswax, which is cool. I wanted some of that for a little while, just for coating thread, but also maybe paper. That might be a thing. Stay tuned. And I also got this keyring measuring tape, which is a really good size, and it's already been on my keys. I had to go and get it and put it and take it off my keys to put it in this video, but it's been really convenient just to always know how big things are. Now from Rowan Dean, and this is the thing that I was waiting for in the post, it's absolutely beautiful. I got this embroidery kit. It comes with all the supplies in the back. I mean, that's already gorgeous, and I thought it would fit. I mean, just even look at it against the like wall color of the Ren Den. I think it will look really nice in here as a piece of art. And it uses a couple of different techniques that I've been interested in. There's some beading, there's different stitches, and they do this really cool thing in some of their designs where they put like a piece of organza behind the design, which makes this really cool sort of shimmering depth in the design. So I'm really excited to try that out. I also got a hoop from them. This is a new one to me anyway. You might all have these, this might be old news. But it's a spring hoop. Let me just take the label off so I can show you. So this coloured bit is the plastic, and then you squeeze this handle here and it just pops out like that. It's supposed to be much easier to keep tension on your project, so we'll see if that's true, but it looked quite fun and I wanted to give it a go. So there we are. A couple of honourable mentions from the show. First of all, Doodlecraft Design. They make some really cool stitched game boards, which is such a cool idea. I thought really hard about getting one. They've got loads of designs. They do other things as well, but the game boards is the thing I was really interested in. And basically I just couldn't pick my favourite, so I didn't get one. But I think also they would look great as useful pieces of art in our games box, and I have got my eye on them in case Christmas money turns out to be particularly profitable this year. I also wanted to mention the Royal Society of Needlework. They do some really cool work. They've got this stitch bank where you can, for free I think, just go and look at all these kind of historical stitches, all these different kinds of styles. Really interesting work. You can adopt a stitch to help with their work, and you can also make a sort of tutorial and a kind of context of the history of a stitch to help the stitch bank be this kind of really informative and useful tool. But yeah, I just wanted to shout them out. Love what they do. So that's my Harrogate haul. I feel like I was quite restrained. We sort of had to speed run it because the roads were quite bad that day, so we didn't have a huge amount of time to go around the stalls, but I think we just about saw everything. I have followed a bunch of people on Instagram off the back of it. So even just like look up the, I'm sure there's a list of stall holders somewhere. There was some great people there. Everyone was really friendly, and I would definitely love to go again next year. Moving on, I was less restrained at Dragonmeet. For those of you who don't know, Dragonmeet is a convention held in Hammersmith in London. It has run for at least the last couple of years. I'm not sure how old it is. I went very briefly last year, loved it. And we just happened to be in London on the right days this year to go again. So that was really exciting. Got to spend a bit more time and like actually enjoy the event. Most of what I bought are zines and kind of little solo or small group games. I will go through them briefly here. If you would like to see more of any of them, if you'd like to see me give them a go, just let me know. I did try really hard to keep track of where I was buying things, but unfortunately there were a lot of zine sellers, and they didn't all have like leaflets so I could keep track, and some of the zines were sold in 2 places anyway, so I'm sure if you look up the zine itself you'll find a seller anyway. So let's do zines first and then we'll get to the stuff. So first up is Auspex by Seb Pines. It is a tarot-based solo journaling game of world building and divination. I'm a sucker for anything that uses a tarot deck for that kind of thing. I think it's really a really cool way to tell a story, and the design of the book is really beautiful as well. So looking forward to giving that a proper read. Then we have Ex Libris by Eleanor Hingley, which is a cozy solo journaling TTRPG about being the new librarian for a small town library in a fantasy world. It just looked like a really nice kind of slice of life story. I think it only needs paper and a die, so really easy to get into, and I thought that one was great. I also picked up Hoist Up the Thing, an RPG about blagging your way through life at sea. This is inspired by the Longest John's song Hoist Up the Thing. Check that out if you haven't heard it. It's just a really simple double-sided sheet. It's a group game. I think it would be really fun to pull out as a one-shot, whether you want to adapt it to a system or use it on its own. But I'd seen the Longest Johns like the week before we went to Dragonmeet, so I just simply couldn't resist. Then we have The Kingdom of Prester John, which honestly I almost didn't pick up, but they were doing a deal. It was 3 for something, and this one had caught my eye, so I thought I would give it a go. It is a solo journaling RPG played with a 10-sided die and a notebook. Really low entry, and in the game you tell the story of journeying through the 12th century and medieval Christian mythology in search of a kingdom of legend. So I thought that would touch on some interesting themes. Then we have Polis by Joshua Fox. This is a game about building a city, basically, over the course of time, changing it with events and monuments and cultures. I love world-building games. I think they don't get enough attention as a thing. Also, the paper feels really nice, which was a factor. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to building something cool with that. Next up is Scribe by Frederick Walker, which is a solo journaling game of the Bronze Age collapse. Again, I thought it was a really interesting subject as a sort of area of history to be able to tell a story in. And you can play with as like a Jenga tower, like a tumble blocks tower. And I've played Babel, which is a solo journaling game which uses the same thing, and it just kind of adds this really interesting dynamic to the whole thing where like at any moment the game will end and it's not up to you. Well, it's up to you a little bit, but really the tower has the final say. So looking forward to that. Next we have Stacks of Goblins by Fern Milton. This is a silly little game that I just really love the look of. On the back it just says, "This is the back page. There isn't much useful here. You probably want a different page. Silly peoples." It is a group game. You just play with dice and tokens. And I have in the past run a Goblins one-shot at Christmas. So I thought you could easily recoat it to be for a particular time of year or just play it on its own merits. But we love Goblin games here, so I had to pick that up. Then we have Tea and Toadstools by Lalione Publishing. I hope I've said that right. Which is a solo game about being a hedgehog. Obviously had to get. Trying to mind your business and going about your day. You desire very much to enjoy a cup of tea and bask in the sun. The problem is, all of your neighbours and friends are vying for your attention and help for any number of tasks. Make your escape to your toadstool home before the neighbourhood busybodies take up all your time and energy. Enough said. Another silly one. This frog is ruining my dungeon crawl. I just thought the premise was so funny. I believe it's a solo game. It's designed by Justin Vandermeer. And basically, you are trapped in a dungeon with a magic frog, is the premise. And you need to help him break out of the prison he's in before he puts a curse on you. So I just thought, I couldn't resist even just the title of that. I thought it was brilliant. And finally, and in a slightly different tone, Toadstone by Becky Annison, which is a story about a village being cut off from the rest of the world in the middle of the winter. A traveller arrives, mystery ensues. Are you trapped with them or are they trapped with you? I just thought that seemed excellent and spooky and I wanted it. And then the last RPG I got, which is not a zine. There is zine discourse about whether or not a pamphlet is a zine or not. In general, a zine should be something that you can print in your house with very little kind of production value, and a lot of these do actually require a certain amount of production value. So I recognise that there is a degree of controversy around that, and I do think a conversation about the sort of accessible art and kind of low entry art is really valuable. These were billed as zines, which is why I'm describing them as zines. If you disagree, totally fine. But this one is definitively not a zine. It's quite chunky. This is The Almanac of Sanguine Paths by Rory Montford, and it is a journaling and epistolary game for 1 to 2 players about being a werewolf. You play it with tarot cards, so again, easy sell for me. And it is about corresponding with a secret society. So I thought I had some really cool elements in it. Also, it's gorgeous. There was a kind of special edition hardback version, which was a little out of my price range, but this one looks just as beautiful inside. So that's all the stories. Now about the stuff. Firstly, I got this really cool sword hairpin with a D20 charm on the end. I basically immediately put this in my hair. I was like, if I can't wear this at a games convention, where can I wear this? And I really enjoyed the kind of sort of following me around, the jingle sort of following me around. I'm pretty sure this is made by Three Fates Wares. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but they do make sword hairpins at least. So I'm at least partly right. Do check them out. I think I bought one last year from them, to be honest. In fact, yeah, I did. I bought one from them last year, which is the same, but it didn't have a little charm on it. So, but now I see this one has actually a little ring for a charm, so I'm sure I could find something cool to put on the end of that one. Okay, maybe. I also got some pronoun pins. I got a rainbow one as well, but I think it's already in a bag somewhere. I don't know who I got these from, I'm sorry. I don't think I picked up a card at that stall. Less people had cards at Dragonmeet, which I totally respect, but it makes it really hard to track you down afterwards, especially because I can't now find the convention guide that we picked up at the entrance. I had a D&D pronoun pin and it got kind of rusty and wet and weird, so I definitely wanted to pick up some new ones. And finally, my proudest purchase of the day. I went and stared at this guy's stall for like 5 minutes on the first pass, and then we went for lunch and I went back and stared at it some more, and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, I love lamp. No, I spoke like an adult. He is called Chicken Wizard, and he makes loads of really beautiful dice, but also these fantastic lamps. It is a USB plug-in, which is good because I don't like buying battery-powered stuff unless it's rechargeable. It always feels slightly more wasteful, and I like to think it's going to last for a hot second, so I think this will look really nicely on the shelf. I might just go see if I've got room for it. You can just about see it. There you go. Look at that! Isn't that so pretty? And I could easily attach the cord to the edge of the bookcase and cover it with something, but for the meantime it just is a really nice point of light in what is otherwise quite a kind of dark corner, and I really love it so much. So thank you, Chicken Wizard, for my lamp. Honourable mentions at Dragonmeet. Rune Fable makes some really beautiful kind of crystal shard shaped dice. Check them out if you are bored of the shape the dice are and you want a new shape for your dice. I stared at the art of Caleb Peregrine for like 10 minutes, and once I know what art I've got to go on this wall, I definitely will check out his art again, because there were some really nice pieces that I think would fit really nicely just here. But I want to check that I've got room before I buy anything. Modular Realms. This is dungeon tiles. They're magnetic. I thought it was a really brilliant idea. They come, I think, unpainted, and then you paint them, which is going to be more cost effective, and it means you can kind of personalize it, so that's cool. Comes in a box shaped like a book. I think their Kickstarter is either just finished or just about to finish, so check that out. Magic of Inventorying is a narrative game for adventurers with a strong desire to declutter their loot. You're already at the end of the dungeon, you have already defeated the dungeon's boss, it's time to find wondrous loot. I think this looks like a really fun way of playing with the idea of encumbrance, with the idea of having like collected all this stuff on an adventure, and I love to sort belongings, so I think I will be really looking forward to this game. I think the Kickstarter is about to start for that one, so definitely keep an eye out. And finally, Game Therapy UK deliver gaming projects and therapeutic gaming for vulnerable people from all different backgrounds and all different experiences. They're also kind of investigating the benefits of therapeutic gaming from an academic perspective, and I love to investigate fun stuff from an academic perspective, so I really admire their work, and definitely check them out and see if you can get involved. And I think that's it from Dragonmeet. Moving on. So I wouldn't normally do a haul video for just like browsing charity shops around town, but it was an exceptionally good day out in Hertford, and I need to brag about all the stuff I got. So, first of all, we went to Hertford Museum. They basically had a bunch of local people who had travelled a lot and collected a bunch of stuff from all over, and they opened this museum to kind of showcase it, and now they do lots of really interesting work in local history and in sort of identifying the collection practices of people in the early, I think, 20th century, which is really interesting. They've got a bunch of weird and cool stuff. So I got this from the gift shop. I just really loved it. I thought I could put, I don't know, some kind of haberdashery in it, maybe, but I think it would pin really nicely to the shelves. I might have to experiment with that slightly because I think this is slightly taller than my shelves are, so I need to figure that out. But I wanted to get something from there to support their work, and that's just subjectively really lovely. I mean, you could put like a LED tea light in it, couldn't you? And it would just look beautiful. I might add a little more light to that shelf, actually. Interesting. So then we went for a wander around the charity shops because we had heard that it's a good place for charity shops, and boy is it. So in the first one, I got this 3-in-1 lens kit. This is an M&S thing. There's a fisheye lens, a wide-angle lens, and a macro lens. I haven't tried these out yet, but I wanted to work out how to film like mini painting and sort of small things better, and that might help. I don't know. I've kind of always wanted to try these foam lenses, and I thought $1.99 was a really good price for taking a punt on it. The next charity shop had these lovely shelves. Look at that. I think the dark brown will go really nicely. I mean, just look at that. That goes quite nicely, doesn't it? They were only £3. The shelves are a good depth from anything from minis to thread reels to whatever. So I want to figure out, because obviously this desk is a sit stand, I want to figure out how high it goes and then maybe put these just above it. Maybe there-ish somewhere. I don't know. I need to think about it, and get some hooks, because the command hooks that I have are the wrong shape for this. But for only £3, this was a really good bargain. In the next charity shop, I got this cushion cover. It's double-sided, and it's in exactly the Rendon colours. I mean, look at the armchair on the other side of me and the wall. That's pretty perfect. This was £2. And I hadn't really thought of needing a cushion cover necessarily for in here, but I thought if I ever do decide I need a cushion cover, I will always compare it to this perfect one I saw in a charity shop that was £2 and exactly the right colours, and nothing will ever match that. So I had to buy it, and now I just need to pilfer a cushion from upstairs to put in it. And the last charity shop had two things. It had this, I think, is a pin cushion. It's from the same sewing set that my sewing box that's shaped like a house that you may or may not have seen, and my portable sewing caddy, which you almost definitely have seen, are the same. Like, literally, it's from that set. This was £1.50, and I haven't looked it up, but these are not cheap to get from new. There's basically nothing wrong with it. It could maybe do with a little bit of a lint roller, but otherwise it's pretty perfect. It's got little wire in its legs so you can get it to stand up. And I just felt like I couldn't say no to that. And then the other thing this shop had was the Father Christmas letters by J.R.R. Tolkien. Did you know that Tolkien wrote like 20 years of Father Christmas letters for his son, with like lore and, you know, there were like goblins and elves in it? I didn't know that. I'm delighted. And it's perfect time of year to have found it. So I'm looking forward to kind of rifling through that during the festive season. £1. So aside from the bowl, which was £6.50, everything else that I got that was from charity shops was like £9.50 total. And for that, we got a brilliant book, some fun stuff to play with, some beautiful, perfect decor for the Rendon, and a little birdie. So I'm so pleased with that. So I had to brag. Now, is that everything? Okay, yes, we did go to another market. So it was totally by chance that we were going to Haddon Hall at all, let alone that we happened to be going during their Mercatum Christmas market. I think it's called Mercatum Christmas Artisan Market. We didn't know it was on, we weren't going specially, but we happened to be on the way past, and it was a great pit stop. It was absolutely full of completely beautiful artisan stuff, people at the top of their game, fibre, blacksmithery, wood, books, anything glass, painting, anything that you can imagine, jewellery. There was so much there. We kind of whizzed around the whole thing in about 3 hours, but we could have spent twice that long there. Also, excellent food. The guy who was doing the toasties was brilliant and had his system down and was making some excellent lunch. So that was great. So some of the stuff that we bought there, I can't show you because it's Christmas presents and therefore a secret. But I did buy one thing for myself from Sycamore Smithy, which is this beautiful hairpin set. So it's two things. It's just the hair clip and then it's the pin, which I really enjoyed because you can wear it as, you know, a normal. So you would put your that round the hair and then you would slide this through like that to kind of grip it. Or I can just about put my hair up with just a pin. So I picked the longest pin that she had because you get to pick your own pin with the clip. The thing I love about this style of clip over the kind of spring clip ones that you get is the spring clips struggle over a certain amount of hair and my hair is really thick. Whereas these, the more hair you can pack into it, the better it is. So I will be on the lookout for some other stuff in that style because I've really enjoyed wearing this. So yeah, I just wanted to mention Haddon Hall because their stuff is great. Is there anything else? Ooh, so while in London, I picked up this print block, which is a 32-point compass. Obsessed with compasses. I definitely went through a sort of compass rose era. So I was really excited to see something that beautiful and that detailed and a little bit old. And now I have to find something to use it in. Okay, and I think that might actually be everything. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's given you some last-minute Christmas inspiration, perhaps, or just jealousy at my wonderful new things. Really enjoying this lamp in the background. I'm going to find a way of disguising the cable, but otherwise that's probably going to stay there because it just is such a lovely point of light. And once I have art up here, it's going to look so cozy. Anyway, I'm off to enjoy my bounty. Take care, and I'll see you on the next project. Insert jingle, etc. I also wanted to mention the Royal Society, which is a cozo. Cute. Inventorying. Magic of inventorying. Inventorying?